Americans should say no. As a nation, we not another dime until you run me back my money. I want every Kenyan vacation home sold and cashed in. I don't care about them getting 20 years in a cushy American prison. I don't care about that. What I care about is I want my money back. I feel like Shelley. I want everything they have seized. I don't give a shit if they have wives and children.
This scandal is totally appalling, but it is also unsurprising. And that's because it's a microcosm of what ails the Democratic elites. That's our Why It Matters segment for the night. The latest revelations join others in which suspected Somali fraudsters stole more than $9 billion in federal funds from 14 state-run agencies dating back to 2018. Somali Americans make up 89% of the defendants charged. The absolute scale of the fraud just beggars belief. Where were the spot checks? Where were the officials? It seems totally impossible that the Democratic leadership was not somehow in on this. Just think about how outrageous this is. You are wondering whether you can afford to have another child because childcare is so expensive. Meanwhile, a group of Somalis in Minnesota got $110 million for childcare centers that don't exist. You can't afford to buy a home, but 100 Somalis spent millions on luxury properties, millions of your taxpayer dollars. You're paying $30,000 a year for terrible health care, and they got millions for healthcare centers that they never opened for patients that they never serviced. But the fraud is a microcosm of an illness that plagues our political elites, especially on the left. More broadly, everybody comes before you. For decades, the Democrats have pushed for mass migration, both legal and illegal, which drove down the wages of working class Americans while making competition for housing, healthcare, and an education, the hallmarks of the American dream, even fiercer. And if you objected, if you had the audacity to ask why your children were being disinherited in your country, the Democratic elites called you racist. Leftist American elites developed an entire woke vocabulary as a smokescreen to mask the mass pillaging of the American working class. They smeared hardworking people who work 10 times harder than they do, by the way, and make a fraction as much. When those working class Americans objected to having their jobs sent overseas and those jobs that remained here degraded by a glut of cheap labor. Millionaires on cable news called you racist if you said, wait a minute, why don't my kids matter? That's why people are so angry about the Somali fraud case. It is the epitome of the fraud perpetrated on the American people through the collusion of the Democratic Party, the liberal media, and people willing to take advantage of the immense generosity of the American people and then spit in our faces.
This fraud is unconscionable, and it's making us look in other places. But first, we're going to shake Minnesota by the ankles and get some of our money back and help hold these criminals accountable. Somali, American, it makes no difference. You can't rob from us. Once we pick you out of the butt crack of the worst countries of the world and bring you here on the good grace of the American citizen, the least you can do is not kill us and not steal from us. The very least you can do. And he's absolutely right with that.
Yeah. Well, there have been indictments and arrests, and more are coming. Starting in 2022, the feds indicted 47 in the initial $250 million Feeding Our Future bust. Then there have been 90 charged total with 60 plus convictions so far. 2 got slammed really hard, one with 28 years in prison, another owing $48 million in restitution. Now it comes back up to 2025 in November of this year. The 78th defendant, Abidasha Reed Bixie Duel, again, he's Somali, was indicted on 7 counts of wire fraud and money laundering for his role in the scheme. Just a couple of weeks ago, 6 more were indicted, 5 in a housing fraud ring, including fraud tourists from Pennsylvania who faked $3.5 million in claims, 1 who bolted to Amsterdam after a subpoena, and 1 in an autism scam targeting Somali families with unqualified therapy. And he used inflated Medicaid bills. I mean, the list goes on. And now Kash Patel is saying this is the tip of the very large iceberg. Are we going to see anybody bigger than role, like Tim Walz, like Ilhan Omar? What are your thoughts on this, Shelley?
Unfortunately, I call me cynical. I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, put it like that. And I'll tell you why. Because our federal government in general, but certainly our federal government is too big. It's too big. This is why this fraud continues. It's too big to audit. It's too big to manage efficiently, and it takes too much time to get the right things done and corrected. I don't think we're going to see any prosecutions, at least not in the next 3 to 4 years, maybe 10, because this is how much this bureaucratic muck and mire is going to take, or how long it's going to take to go through it all and to cross the T's and dot the I's. This is taxpayer money. But again, I'm going to keep saying this. Let you, Nicole, myself, anybody on our team, let us happen to be late for our taxes and see how many IRS notices we'll get before the year is even out. Okay? Watch this. Watch that. This is ridiculous. I'm sick of this. I want my money back. I want my money back.
Yeah. Before I get you in on this, Nicole, Shelley, how do you think, or how do you believe this government and public corruption is going to define 2026? Are we going to see some type of result to this, or will it continue to go on?
I think there's much more to come. I don't just stop at Minnesota. As a matter of fact, I know that it's happening in 50 states across the country, and Puerto Rico and the other U.S. properties as well. It is happening. And again, you know why? Because we have, let me see what I pulled up today. Our federal government, state governments combined, we have over 130 something different programs across agencies that are not just duplicate, they are replicated over and over. They dip and dive between each other or amongst each other. There's this it's like a big ball of yarn, and you can't really find the starting point. So not only are we spending, or have we spent billions, if you will, fraud in Minnesota, multiply this at least by 50, and then multiply it by 100 or more programs, and we come up with the big sum. This is just an estimate of about 1.8, almost $2 trillion a year in fraud and abuse across government programs. That's what we come up with. Again, but let us be late with our taxes or even underpay, and you will have a letter or two before the end of the year.
Yeah. Nicole, I mean, can a nation survive when corruption is tolerated instead of punished?
Do you know, of course not. So here's the thing. This is what we like to call the social services industrial complex. Serving the poor, quote unquote, the poor has become its own industry in the United States. And like Shelley was saying, all of these people who work in government in this particular sector of the government have a vested interest in poor people staying poor, right? So if it means not fully funding a program or closing your eyes to somebody taking advantage of a program, then so be it. Because I'm a career, worker. And it makes me no difference whether these Somali kids who have autism really exist, or are they the kids that I told you, KJ, yesterday, they were going to be busing children from across the damn nation to make it look like there are children participating in these programs. This is exactly what regular Americans hate about our government. Absolutely hate about our government, because they will take our hard-earned dollars and squander them. I mean, absolutely squander them, and then turn around and look us in the face April 15th and say, I want more money. I want more. I know I've not been a good steward of this money. I know I allowed people to rob us blind and then talk shit to our faces about who they are and who they think we are. But you're going to have to give me more because I lost that batch of money. Americans should say no. As a nation, we not another dime until you run me back my money. I want every Kenyan vacation home sold and cashed in. I don't care about them getting 20 years in a cushy American prison. I don't care about that. What I care about is I want my money back. I feel like Shelley. I want everything they have seized. I don't give a shit if they have wives and children. I want every single dime back. Because as long as they allow them to get away with it, they'll just keep taking it from us. And at some point, Americans got to say, enough is enough. And this is a good place to do that.
Mm-hmm.